Hi, I'm Sonja and I write, and welcome back to my fanfiction audiobook, aka the Anime Nerds Collective. If you're new here, hi, I'm Sonja and I am currently writing a Jojo's Bizarre Adventure romance anime fanfiction on Wattpad, which you can find under the author name Minecraft Sheep. That's me. In my fanfiction, I take a more romantic spin on Hirohiko Araki's story of Golden Wind, and if any of that sounds interesting to you, you should stick around. Because in this series, I narrate my entire fanfiction to you all here on YouTube. Why? Why not? If you wanted to start from the very beginning of the series where I post episode 1, you can go into my channel and under the playlist My Anime Fanfiction, where you can find all of the episodes for the series in chronological order. But hey, if you want to start at episode 4, stick around because that's where we're at. So without further ado, here is my fanfiction audiobook, episode 4 of Guilty Conscience, chapter 3, The Interrogation, part 1. It had taken 15 seconds for the pink martini to be emptied. Patrons of the highest class pushed past one another, out into the venue's courtyard after seeing a member of staff pull a gun from his apron. But an empty lounge made for an easier interrogation. No matter how much Galstov Brutta screamed, nobody would hear him. The lounge had darkened, with the sun leaving the summer sky to fall into a deep sleep. The bar took on a somber air. The clamor had caused drinks to spill and chairs to line the lounge's wooden floor, but the bodyguard squad's table remained pristine as they sat down to discuss what would become of the Viper in the bathroom. Dim stage lights illuminated most of the room as the leader, Bucciarati, spoke. "You worked with Galstov? Is that how the two of you recognized one another?" He sipped deeply from his wine, searching Wyan's face. "Yeah, he and I worked under Leaky Eye Luca," she replied, standing a single pace away from the table. Empty chairs sat pointlessly throughout the venue, but she thought it to be too disrespectful to the gentleman before her if she asked to take a seat. After all, her run-in with Galstov had caused quite a commotion. Bucciarati hummed in understanding as more movement came from the men's bathroom where the Viper was being held hostage. It appeared that the bodyguard squad knew that Galstov couldn't get out of whatever restraints they had put him in, and didn't bother glancing in his direction twice. He could make as much of a ruckus as he wanted, but he wouldn't escape. Bucciarati began to rhyme off instructions to his team, gesturing with a single hand while the other occupied the shaft of a wineglass. He spoke in terms that YN wasn't familiar with. The others watched their boss with steely gazes, awaiting the final okay before they could stand to follow through with his commands. And in those moments that Bucciarati spoke to his team, YN couldn't help but feel isolated. She tried her hardest to keep her attention glued to the boss as he spoke. She recalled how Polpo felt about her looking away as they conversed, so she assumed that all mafioso deemed heavy eye contact as a form of respect, especially one as well put together as the man clad in black and gold that stood before her. But there was one member of the bodyguard squad who didn't look at Bucciarati as he spoke. Abbacchio, the biggest mafioso with lilac-colored hair, lounged in a chair beside his boss, directly across from where YN stood. The mafioso clad in purple stared at her shamelessly. He didn't care that everyone around him was busy focusing their eyes toward Bucciarati, the man giving out instructions. Instead, his feline stare was busy looking in other places. His paralyzing gaze searched the front of YN's alcohol-stained clothes, not caring to glance twice at her face. She watched as his eyes moved up and down her torso, and just as his cat-like irises moved to meet her reddened face, he scoffed and turned away. Straightening, Bucciarati spoke to YN, once again grabbing her attention. "You'll be coming into the bathroom to help with the interrogation. It won't take much time, but your assistance is required." Abbacchio and the strawberry blonde, Fugo, didn't bother to hide their disapproval. They rolled their eyes like small children, but their boss paid no mind to their attitude, focusing solely on speaking to the messenger. She thought she saw Fugo about to speak in protest, but a single sharp glare from his boss sent him into silence. Mista and Narancia, the gunslinger and the smallest mafioso, on the other hand, remained impartial and expressionless. She really couldn't read the looks on their faces as they sat, more so occupied with sharing a slab of chocolate cake that had been abandoned at a nearby table. Mista, Narancia, you two cover the front, Bucciarati spoke as the two boys stood, turning quickly and jogging to the Pink Martini's front doors. Fugo, you're on camera duty. Understood. Fugo was quick to make his way across the lounge, disappearing behind a set of swinging double doors. And YN, Bucciarati spoke calmly, you will come with Abbacchio and I. We're going to have a chat with Galstov. YN suddenly felt like a child. She was so inexperienced in this bizarre world of crime that something so rudimentary to Abbacchio and Bucciarati, an interrogation, was such a daunting task for her. Like the child she was, YN welcomed her own warm arms into an embrace. She hugged herself tightly and hoped that she wouldn't have to witness anything too disturbing. She hoped. The wicked grin that settled on Abbacchio's face suddenly turned dark with amusement. He saw the way that she wrapped her arms around her chest. She guessed that he was already aware of her discomfort. And what didn't help was the fact that YN couldn't decide if she was more frightened by the idea of witnessing human torture or the golden-eyed mafioso that stood mere feet in front of her. Standing tall, Abbacchio pushed up the sleeves of his shirt and set down his emptied glass of wine. From the way he stood, she knew that he was itching for some action. He was excited to be interrogating Galstov, and the thought sent chills across her back. Abbacchio leaned over to Bucciarati, mumbling something in the boss's ear while his arms remained crossed in front of his chest. More information that she couldn't know or couldn't understand. But a sudden sliver of curiosity burrowed into her thoughts while the two mobsters spoke. Abbacchio's arms. Her attention was caught by the collection of scars that danced on his smooth skin. He wore no jewelry, but had jagged flaws that lay scattered about his forearms. Some were larger than others, and some looked as if they had been with him for many years, while most of them were light with freshness. His arms were covered in stories that YN knew he would never tell. When her eyes wandered to Bucciarati, with his skin covered from neck to foot, there wasn't much to see aside from his expensive collection of zippers. So sliding with ease, her gaze reclaimed its position on the taller mobster's forearms once again. Problem? Abbacchio's voice shook YN out of her curious daze. He was watching her watch him. No, I was... He clicked his tongue once and walked off towards the men's restroom before she could come up with an excuse for her rudeness. But in all honesty, YN couldn't help but be curious in this new world that was the Mafia. She was used to seeing cuts and bruises, but never had she seen a person with so many stories sketched into their skin. She turned to Bucciarati and watched him as he adjusted his cufflinks. His complexion was much darker than Abbacchio's. With a deep tan, his blue eyes stood out like sapphires in a bed of sand. As soon as he finished adjusting his suit, Bucciarati came to face her, walking slowly around the table and standing before her so that his chest was only inches away from her own. He tipped his chin down and spoke into YN's ear, his voice thick with authority as he said, "Do not mistake my kindness for acceptance. Do not think because I need your assistance now that you will remain as a part of my team. You are a temporary addition, and as soon as this is all over, you're going to go to Polpo, where you can be officially dismissed from Passione. Do you understand?" YN nodded slowly. She didn't speak as Bucciarati took a step away from her and towards the bathroom. "Go to school, get a job, have a good life with your friends and family. The Mafia isn't a place for people with such potential like you." YN opened her mouth to say thank you, but was cut off when the boss quickly added, "And try not to stare at Abbacchio. The last thing I need right now is him throwing you through a wall." The boss turned towards the men's room, and Wyan hurried her steps to meet him. A sudden rustling came from behind, and she whipped her head to see Narancia running towards them. "It's still clear in the front, Bucciarati. Beast asked me to give a quick check to the back parking area, so that's where I'm going now." Bucciarati nodded as the smaller boy ran past and through a set of solid black doors. Wyan must have had a confused look on her face as the mafioso explained. He and Mista are keeping an eye out for police officers. Wyan hummed as they finally approached the restroom doors. Abbacchio peered at Wyan from within, clearly not amused by her attendance. He held open the door with one arm, allowing for his boss to pass through, but let it close on Wyan as she tried to walk in as well. She could have sworn she heard Bucciarati scold him from behind the closed door. "Another question for our friend Galstov," Wyan heard Bucciarati say as she walked through the restroom's threshold. "Why choose the pink martini as their cover? Why not just hide out in some abandoned warehouse?" "Well, we'll find out sooner or later. Little Galstov seems to be getting tired of hanging around," Abbacchio said, and Wyan could practically see the dangerous smile that tugged at his lips. Hi, it's me again. Thank you so much for sticking around all the way to the end. I should stick around till next Monday because that's when episode 5 of the series will be released, the Interrogation Part 2. Bye!